No.
Justice Department, DOJ, withdraws from its settlement, its antitrust settlement that it had with the National Association of Realtors. Okay, so there are at least there's many
billions
articles,
of articles. Yes.
There's a Wall Street Journal article that I thought was pretty good. Warning to the real estate cartel. We can go through
An
that.
opinion piece. Yep.
That's an opinion piece, but I thought it breaks down a bunch of good information there.
Yep.
The Justice Department will take a new look at those outrageous broker fees. I would disagree with Michael Toth, who wrote that, of course. And then there's a whole bunch of good ones from Inmac.
Well, I love that he called it the cartel.
The cartel, yeah.
Yeah.
Guy's a
so gangsta. It sounds so like when our gangstas.
Michael Toth, totally bitter. Probably, has bought and sold once in his life.
Okie doke.
And so here we go. Way to go, Michael. From
Maybe we should
Wall
search
Street
him
Journal.
before we start throwing stuff like that again.
I don't care. All right. But Inman's got a bunch of good articles. Andrea, who we cover all the time, Brambilla, she has one. NAR cut a deal with Trump DOJ to undermine commission suits. This is according to the Consumer Federation of America's assertions. They're saying that basically what happened was, yes, the Department of Justice under the Trump administration is when the settlement was made. It was when the lawsuit was made and the settlement coincided, basically. And we'll go through the timeline in a second. And then now, new administration, Department of Justice, is backed out. By the way, this is the first time ever in the history of these types of things that a federal antitrust authorities have agreed to a proposed settlement only to back out of said settlement. First time that's ever happened. So it definitely means they want to look at this closer. They are serious about this. They wouldn't make this a first time thing if they weren't serious about it. Let's go into the timeline in case you haven't been following. If you plan on staying in real estate, you should start following this. November 19th, 2020, the announcement, the DOJ announced the suit on November 19th of last year. The complaint ran 11 pages long. We covered it. Pointed to a handful of practices that regulators deemed anti-competitive. Now, coinciding with the lawsuit was a settlement that NAR and DOJ both negotiated together and said, we're going to change these things. We're putting this into motion right now. We're going to go ahead and make these changes. Okay. And so they actually started working on those. So November 20th, the next day, speculation grows. The days following the lawsuit's announcement were dominated by analysis. So Jay Thompson, who I want to get into one of his pieces as well here, a new one, argued that the case would ultimately be good for the industry because it would increase transparency, which I think we both agreed at the time.
We always agreed that we wanted transparency, yes.
More transparency, the better. And so some of those changes that were going to make things more transparent, like the lockbox change, I thought that was probably pretty good. I mean, for too long, real estate has been a black box, which enabled anti-competitive price collusion and misinformation. Okay, we both agree that we want to get away from those things. Okay, so now go all the way to this year, March 23rd, 2021, changes in the works. NAR spokesperson Mantiel Williams told Inman the trade group was still working through the details of the settlement. He said the process could ultimately take months. Maybe NAR wasn't moving fast enough for DOJ. I don't know. And I don't know what the settlement said, how quickly they had to move on this, but hope that NAR
it does sound
have the changes worked out.
As you read further, though, it does sound like NAR was unwilling to make some changes for DOJ.
On May 11th, 2021, NAR's general counsel and chief member experience officer Katie Johnson, chief member experience officer Katie, let's get to know each other here. Discuss.
So what's her? She's a CME.
Yeah, she's a lot of things there.
CME.
Discuss a number of lawsuits NAR was fighting, such as those dubbed the where the homeowners have basically done these class action lawsuits, as well as the DOJ case. She specifically revealed that NAR was still negotiating its settlement in the DOJ case. So they started to renegotiate. DOJ wanted some other changes to the settlement they made with NAR. NAR was like, no, we agreed on these changes. We're moving forward with these. We're not going to start to add more stuff to the pot here, right? June 15th, 2021, new regulators on June 15th. Linda Kahn took over as the chairperson of the Federal Trade Commission. Though FTC is not involved in the DOJ case, it's tasked with investigating what it deems unfair and deceptive trade practices. And she's been a vocal advocate updating antitrust laws to reflect new realities in the marketplace. And so that was a big moment here with upheaving this DOJ settlement. June 2nd. Why would they go from June 15th to June 2nd on the timeline here? Maybe it was 20 something. DOJ gets into pocket listings. Okay, so no, they go June 15th to June 2nd. DOJ argued that a judge erred when dismissing an antitrust lawsuit against NAR. So DOJ did not like sounds like a federal judge's dismissal of an antitrust lawsuit against NAR. The case was filed by the PLS, formerly a private listing network for real estate agents, argued that NAR and various MLSs broke the law when they banned pocket listings. Okay. July 1st is when the deal fell apart, and Department of Justice announced that they were abandoning their settlement. Explained it was taking this action to permit a broader investigation of NAR's rules and conduct to proceed without restriction. So what they're saying is that the settlement was too restrictive, that if they wanted to go and do an antitrust lawsuit in the future for something else, it was going to prohibit them.
Yeah, right.
So that was interesting. Now, what were the changes that ultimately they agreed to? Let's recap those. And I think Jay Thompson's article does the best job of breaking that down. Okay, so that's an opinion piece. Jay Thompson, this came out on July 6th. He's saying this matters quite a bit. All right, so the rules prohibiting MLSs that are affiliated with NAR from disclosing to prospective buyers the commission that the buyer's broker will earn if a buyer purchases a home listed on the MLS. I always thought that was fine, right?
We agreed.
Let the buyer see the commission being offered to the buyer broker. I absolutely think that is fair, okay? Allowing buyer brokers to misrepresent to buyers that a buyer's broker services are free. So saying, you've heard this a lot.
Well, we hear it everywhere. Oh, no, don't worry. Agent, no, it's free.
It's free.
You don't pay for me.
Nothing's free because
you don't pay for me.
Ultimately, they're taking out the loan. They're putting the $300,000 and they're giving it to the seller, and all that commission's coming out from the seller back to.
So the buyer is
to both the agents, right?
Indirectly paying.
Correct. Yes. I mean, that's the argument. The big argument.
That's the huge argument. Right. Yes.
So basically, making it unethical for a agent to say to the buyer, "Oh, my services are free."
Right.
Right. And so there you go there. Now and this gets into, hey, if each party, because this is unlike most transactions, right? If the seller had to pay the listing agent and the buyer had to pay the buyer agent, the buyer would be able to afford less, and those commissions on the buy side, this is the argument, and this is true, buyer commissions would go significantly down because
they'd need cash.
They would need cash to make that transaction. They wouldn't be able to borrow that in their mortgage.
Right.
And you'd see what you have in Europe, where basically buyer agents don't make anything. Okay. So there you go. They're enabling buyers brokers to filter MLS listings based on the level of buyer broker commissions offered to exclude homes with lower commissions from consideration by potential buyers. Limiting access to the lock boxes that provide licensed brokers with access to homes for sale to brokers who work for a NAR affiliated MLS. So basically, you couldn't have a rule where it's like, you've got to be licensed to get access to this lockbox. I mean, that's really going to help companies like Zillow, Open Door, Redfin, where now if the homeowner signs off on it, anybody can get access to this lockbox, a more sophisticated lockbox, probably with cameras and scanning and barcode, one-day barcodes or whatever.
Yeah, what time 100%.
Now, I don't have a problem with that either.
Well, they were talking about like you'd have to scan your license. I mean, that's a lot of those iBuyers at this point now too. I mean, in all honesty, you'd probably get a lot more information on the buyer if you were the seller in that type of situation because you're seeing their license. But it would be interesting too, because I wonder if there would be any sort of fair housing there too, because now right?
If the buyer could see the license. I don't know if the buyer would be able to see the license.
The seller.
The seller be able to see the license because to your point, we're going to get into that here on Racket number 2. With the Oregon decision there.
So what now? The listing agent would be getting
the one getting those licenses.
Information, yeah.
Interesting.
Very.
Okay. As reported by Inman, NAR's vice president of communications, those changes, which we just discussed, they were going to go ahead and start moving forward on basically those changes. Like, for example, with the seller's prior approval, a licensed real estate agent will have access to a lockbox of properties listed on the MLS, even if the agent does not subscribe to the MLS. So that's kind of, I guess, just agents. But I think where they were going with this, and it's a little gray here, that the agent with seller's approval is going to be able to give access to that lockbox to more people, including agents not associated with the MLS and potentially consumers as well. So NAR and the MLSs went as far to begin implementing these changes. Now, here's the statement to NAR reacting to the Department of Justice withdrawing from the settlement. This is a complete, unprecedented breach of agreement by the Department of Justice to withdraw its consent from a fully negotiated settlement that had been approved by the head of the Antitrust Division, and we had begun to implement. National Association of Realtors rules and policies have long sought to ensure fair and competitive real estate markets for home buyers and sellers, grounded in our commitment to act in the best interest of buyers and sellers. We regularly update our rules and policies to protect consumers and provide transparency. NAR has fulfilled all our obligations under the settlement agreement, and now DOJ is inexplicably backing out of those agreements. If the department does not live up to its commitments under the terms of the agreement, we are confident in our pro-consumer and pro-competition policies. What are they saying there with the last line? They're saying, we'll see you in court, DOJ. We'll settle this there. We feel very confident in going to the Supreme Court. Nicole.
So everything's on hold for now, folks.
Everything is on hold. Who do you blame here? Do you blame NAR for not negotiating more with DOJ? DOJ. Do you think NAR is right to say let's just go to court? Where are you on this? Just the withdrawal of the first time ever.
I mean, I certainly haven't been sitting there, so I don't know if NAR was necessarily dragging their feet. I guess I understand the DOJ's stance on sort of, if they do settle, they're sort of eliminating themselves from future, inquiries. But at this point, I can't even say either side. You're committing to a side. You're saying this is like, shame on you, NAR? You're saying shame on you to NAR?
No, I want you to commit to a side.
I'm certainly not committing to anything on this.
Yeah.
But it is very interesting. I do think that there's a lot of talking points here that are left to have, there are lots of conversations still left here.
Here's what's clear.
Makes sense why it's on hold.
The MLS is under attack. And I mean, it's under attack from so many angles. Zillow has obviously changed the MLS forever. And in the end, like I've said from the beginning, with all of this, who's going to get bigger? It's going to be companies like Zillow.
Absolutely.
They're going to get more control because they don't care about
Right.
NAR.
I think what's very interesting, though, is that I think that this market has also brought to light even more issues. So it's a hot market. Buyers and sellers are everyone's pissed. But like things are moving, and I don't think that people are feeling like they're getting a fair shot. So it's all very interesting. You
don't just have the...
I mean, there's
you don't just
article
have this
after article after article.
Well, you don't just have this Department of Justice, settlement with NAR on the antitrust lawsuit. You also have those big class action lawsuits from homeowners, the Morel class action, Moehrl. I don't know if that's how you say it, but we've talked about that a whole bunch. You've got several antitrust lawsuits in the process currently that are moving forward. NAR, Realogy, Keller Williams, Remax, Zillow, they're all involved in lawsuits. So when you start stacking up all of these, and you have an administration right now that would like to see things like commissions come way down because they think that's going to encourage home ownership, it gets interesting to say that nothing, we'll be fine. NAR's got great lobbyists. Like nothing's going to happen to the real estate agent. If good comes out of it, like more transparency for the consumer and those types of changes that we mentioned, that's a great thing. If there's restrictions on the ability for consumers and agents to negotiate commissions, and there's a cap on commissions, I mean, we're talking about a real communistic approach, in my opinion. If we're going to restrict free market, that would be terrible for the industry. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But that's the timeline. That's what's going on.
But like you said at the top, like, it's time to start following this.
Yeah. No question.
Yeah.
No question. If for nothing else, just to be able to prepare. A lot of these things are going to take time, but as we move forward, there's more information that continues, and this withdrawal by the DOJ being the first time, it could be considered a racket. I think I'd be in that category. Okay.